The slap heard across the stars. Perihelion Prime was the crown jewel of interstellar diplomacy, a massive orbital station balanced at the edge of neutrality and chaos. With its transparent panels overlooking nebulae and bustling shuttle ports, it symbolized peace. At least, that was the illusion. Elena Rourke had walked its halls for over a year, a senior liaison and translator for the United Terran Alliance. She was known for her clarity, poise, and an ability to defuse tension with nothing more than a precise choice of words. Today, however, tension hung like a thundercloud. The Zaltari Dominion delegation had arrived in full regalia, towering insectoid figures wrapped in ceremonial silks and armor-laced limbs. Their ambassador, Veltar, was infamous for his disdain of humans, whom he regarded as upstart mammals barely worthy of acknowledgement. Elena had prepared for this. She knew Veltar would test boundaries, but nothing prepared her for what he did. The meeting took place in the Harmony Chamber, where glowing panels translated words into hundreds of languages. Elena stood beside Veltar's podium, ready to translate his speech into Terran standard for the human delegates present. The ambassador began with thinly veiled contempt, speaking of lesser species and the burden of elevating the crude. Elena, stone-faced, chose neutral phrasing, refusing to feed the aggression. Veltar paused mid-sentence and turned to her. His compound eyes narrowed. "You mistranslate," he hissed in Zaltari tongue. "I softened it for diplomacy," she replied evenly, also in his language. "You do not speak my will as given. I speak what serves peace." There was a long silence. Then, without warning, Veltar raised his clawed limb and struck her across the face. The sharp crack echoed through the chamber. Gasps rippled. Security didn't move. No one did. Elena stumbled back, one hand flying to her cheek, where blood already welled from a shallow cut. She didn't cry out, didn't flinch again. She straightened, eyes locked with the ambassador. Veltar turned back to the crowd as if nothing had happened. "I will no longer be interpreted by liars," he announced coldly. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Several human delegates began shouting. Security androids hovered closer, but stopped short. The Zaltari diplomatic badge on Veltar's chest glowed a soft blue. Diplomatic immunity. Elena left the chamber without another word. Hours later, in the sterile infirmary of Perihelion Prime, Elena sat still as the medic applied a salve to her cheek. The swelling had gone down, but a livid mark remained. The attending physician, a soft-spoken Corellian, avoided eye contact. A knock at the door. Ambassador Chun from the UTA entered, voice low and tense. "Elena, I need you to understand how delicate this is. Veltar's actions were deplorable, but if we pursue charges, we risk undoing 3 years of negotiations." Elena turned her head slowly. "So we let them strike us now?" "No, but we wait. We go through proper channels. He has immunity. For now." She stared at him. For a long moment, she considered yelling, fighting, quitting. Instead, she picked up her personal communicator. "Who are you calling?" Chun asked. "My husband," she replied. "Elena, don't. Jack is not known for restraint. That's exactly why I'm calling him." She stepped into the corridor and composed a short, encrypted message. She hesitated, then typed. "He hit me. They won't act. I'm sorry." She pressed send. On the edge of the Epsilon system, deep in UTA-controlled space, a stealth cruiser's alert chimed softly. The AI on board translated the incoming message and routed it to the commanding officer. Commander Jack Rourke sat alone in his quarters, scanning mission logs from the last orbital sweep. He looked up as the message projected before him. He read it once, then again. No change in expression, just silence. Slowly, he stood, walked to the command deck, and tapped the control console. "Override destination," he said. "Commander, current exercise with Fleet Command is not yet complete. Override. Authorization Rourke Black 5. New coordinates? Perihelion Prime. Best speed." He turned toward his second-in-command, Captain Singh, who had just entered. "Something wrong, sir?" Jack Rourke's eyes were cold, focused. They hit my wife. The Warhound wakes. The hum of the Vigilance engines filled the command deck as it cut through the blackness of space. Stars streaked past like shards of light, distant and indifferent. Inside, Commander Jack Rourke stood rigid, eyes fixed on the holographic image of Perihelion Prime rotating slowly in the viewport. The message from Elena had shattered the calm he wore like armor. They hit my wife. 3 simple words that ignited a fire no diplomat or peacekeeper could douse. Jack was no diplomat. Once, he was the Warhound, a name whispered with fear by alien warlords across multiple systems. His history was etched with shadows, covert strikes, deep cover sabotage, brutal interrogations. A soldier forged in humanity's darkest hours during the War of Annexation. He had fought to secure Earth's place among the stars. But that chapter was supposed to be behind him. Now it wasn't. "Commander, permission to speak," Captain Mara Singh said softly, stepping beside him. Jack didn't look away from the station. "They won't act against Veltar. The Council has made that clear." Jack's jaw tightened. "Then I will." Captain Singh's eyes flickered with concern, but no surprise. She had served under Jack long enough to know that once he made a decision, it was final. "Shall I prepare the crew for boarding procedures? Or will we handle this quietly?" she asked. Jack's gaze finally shifted to her. "Quiet is for diplomats. We're past that." The Vigilance slipped through Perihelion Prime's outer defenses with calculated precision. Station protocols normally barred unauthorized military vessels, but Jack's ship had seen the Black Ops seal on its manifest since its construction. As the cruiser docked, automated sensors detected electromagnetic pulses disabling station weapon arrays, calculated just enough to prevent resistance, but not to cause panic. Security forces scrambled, their voices sharp and tense in comm channels. The station's leaders hurriedly convened emergency meetings, but nothing would be simple today. Jack strode through the docking bay, flanked by Mara and a small team of elite soldiers dressed in sleek, matte black armor. Their steps echoed through the vast halls, silent warnings to anyone who might oppose. Elena waited near the administrative wing. Her face was pale but steady, a stark contrast to the bruised cheek she hid beneath a carefully draped scarf. She met Jack's eyes, and for a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. Then, with a small nod, she stepped aside to let him take the lead. Inside the station's command center, Jack wasted no time. Screens flickered to life, displaying the surveillance footage of the assault. Veltar's claw connecting with Elena's face in slow, undeniable clarity. He turned to Ambassador Chun, who stood stiffly nearby. "Is this how you defend your people?" Jack's voice was cold, sharp like a blade. Chun swallowed, eyes darting to others in the room. "Jack, this isn't the way. Diplomacy demands patience." Jack's laugh was humorless. "Diplomacy demands respect." She was disrespected. "You want me to wait? To watch a diplomat strike my wife with impunity? That's not patience. That's cowardice." The room fell silent. Jack's reputation preceded him. They knew that beneath the calm exterior was a man who had seen entire fleets burn and who never forgot a slight. Later, in the dim light of the command deck, Jack's mind flickered back to Earth. Flashbacks, night raids on hostile warlords' compounds, explosions framed by blood-red skies, silent interrogations in claustrophobic cells where survival depended on sheer will. Faces of enemies who had underestimated human tenacity. He thought of Elena, always the light in his dark world, how she had pulled him back from the edge, from the abyss of endless conflict. Now, his personal war had reignited. Captain Singh's voice broke through the haze. "Intel shows Veltar is preparing to rally Zaltari security forces. They're moving to shield him." Jack's eyes snapped open. "Then we act before they do." The corridors of Perihelion Prime became a chessboard. Jack moved swiftly, coordinating with loyalists among the human delegates and station security. He didn't seek an open fight yet, but he made sure everyone knew the stakes. No one doubted his resolve. News spread quickly. The station's populace, diverse and tense, whispered about the Warhound's return. Alien factions grew uneasy. Some admired the humans' courage. Others feared the unpredictable wrath they had awakened. Back in her quarters, Elena sat quietly as Jack sent encrypted messages to Earth, requesting reinforcements and legal backing. She was proud and terrified in equal measure. "Jack," she said softly one evening, "this isn't just about me. This could ignite a war." He took her hands in his. "It's never just about one person. It's about making sure no one else gets hit. No one else feels powerless." She nodded, trusting him completely. As the vigilant prepared for the next phase, Jack's voice carried a promise. "If the law won't protect us, then we'll make sure they pay the price for forgetting who humanity is." The Warhound was awake again, and the galaxy was about to remember. No immunity from consequences. Perihelion Prime's usual hum of activity had dimmed into tense silence. Jack Rourke moved through the station's corridors like a storm, unseen, unstoppable, and filled with quiet menace. He had made it clear, Veltar's diplomatic immunity was a shield no longer. If the station's authorities wouldn't act, Jack would take matters into his own hands. The Vigilant's electromagnetic pulse had already disabled the station's weapons systems. Now, Jack's team systematically cut communication channels between the Zaltari quarters and the rest of the station. Veltar was isolated. Security officers loyal to the United Terran Alliance secured checkpoints, while alien delegates watched from behind reinforced glass, their faces a mixture of fear and outrage. Jack paused before a heavily guarded door marked Veltar Private Quarters. The insectoid ambassador's arrogance was legendary, but now, confined and vulnerable, Jack felt no hesitation. The door hissed open, revealing Veltar seated on a sleek chair, surrounded by a handful of bodyguards. "Commander Rourke," Veltar's voice was venomous but cautious. "You threaten peace." Jack stepped inside, his gaze cold and unyielding. "You assaulted my wife. That's not politics. That's cowardice." Veltar's compound eyes narrowed. "I am protected by the Accord. You cannot touch me." Jack's lips curled in a dangerous smile. Protection isn't a free pass for abuse. The interrogation was swift and brutal. Jack employed every tactic he had learned in his years as the Warhound. Psychological pressure, subtle intimidation, and a display of the very human stubbornness that made him so feared. He replayed the footage of the slap, frame by frame, watching Veltar's composure crack. "You think your status shields you? It doesn't. Not anymore." Veltar's bodyguards tensed, but Jack's team was ready, surrounding them with non-lethal weaponry primed. The ambassador's facade finally shattered. "You will pay for this insolence." Jack leaned forward. "Try me." Word of the confrontation spread quickly. The Zaltari Dominion dispatched a fleet to protect their ambassador, demanding Jack's immediate withdrawal and threatening to escalate the conflict into full war. Station-wide, alarms blared. Diplomatic channels buzzed with urgent messages. Elena watched the chaos unfold from a secure location. Despite her fear, she stood firm. Jack's voice came through on a secure channel. "Elena, this isn't just about revenge. It's about respect. If they think humanity can be pushed around, they're wrong." She replied, steady but concerned. "This could spiral out of control. Then we make sure it doesn't. But we don't back down." As the station prepared for the worst, Jack turned his attention to Veltar's attempted escape. Intelligence revealed the ambassador planned to flee disguised as a civilian on a shuttle leaving the station. Jack's team moved fast. In a labyrinth of docks and maintenance corridors, they intercepted Veltar just before he boarded. Veltar's shock was visible. "You cannot hold me." Jack's grip was iron. "You're not going anywhere until this is settled." He handcuffed the ambassador with restraints adapted for Zaltari physiology. The final confrontation was arranged in the central hall of Perihelion Prime, a place meant for peace now charged with tension. Dignitaries from multiple species watched as Jack broadcast the assault footage on large displays throughout the hall. Veltar, stripped of his diplomatic status by emergency decree, stood isolated. Jack spoke clearly. "This is the face of disrespect toward humanity. We are no longer the species to be ignored or insulted." The crowd was silent. Some applauded quietly, others bristled. Veltar tried to protest, but his voice was drowned out by murmurs of disbelief. Elena joined Jack on the stage, stepping forward with quiet dignity. "This is not about vengeance," she said. "It is about ensuring no one believes they are above accountability. That includes us." Her words carried weight, her calm bravery inspiring those present. The Zaltari delegation, faced with overwhelming evidence and united human resolve, relented. A formal apology was broadcast across all networks. Veltar's diplomatic immunity revoked permanently. Jack and Elena left the station hand in hand, a united front. Behind the scenes, the United Terran Alliance drafted the Rourke Amendment, a new regulation ensuring that no species or individual could claim immunity in cases of violence against others. Humanity had drawn a clear line. Jack glanced at Elena as the station's lights dimmed behind them. "They thought we were soft. They forgot who we are." Elena smiled. "We never forget." The reckoning. The central hall of Perihelion Prime was packed with delegates from every corner of the galaxy. Holographic displays cast shifting light over faces filled with anticipation, anxiety, and defiance. This was meant to be a place for peace, but today it was the stage for a reckoning. At the front stood Commander Jack Rourke and Elena. Between them, Veltar, once a proud ambassador, was now stripped of his diplomatic status, bound in restraints specially designed for his insectoid physiology. The ambassador's compound eyes flickered with rage and disbelief. Jack's voice rang clear across the hall, broadcast to every communication channel in the station. "This is what happens when you strike a human. When you think that your species, your rank, your supposed immunity puts you above justice." He gestured to the large screen behind him, where footage replayed the moment Veltar's claw connected with Elena's face. The room was silent except for the sharp crack of the strike echoing through the speakers. "No more hiding behind immunity," Jack continued. "No more disrespect. Humanity has fought for centuries to claim its rightful place in this galaxy. We do not tolerate violence against our own." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some in agreement, others in protest. But none dared interrupt. Veltar struggled, trying to speak, but his voice was drowned out by the gravity of the moment. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite the lingering pain. "This is not vengeance. This is accountability." She paused, looking around the hall. "When my husband sent me to this station, he did so believing that diplomacy could work. But when violence was met with silence, he reminded us all of the cost of inaction." Her words resonated deeply. For the first time, many delegates saw the human spirit unmasked, vulnerable, yet unyielding. The station council convened quickly after the public confrontation. Despite Zaltari protests and threats of withdrawal from the peace accords, the council voted to uphold Jack's demand. Veltar's diplomatic immunity was revoked permanently, and he was to be returned to Zaltari authorities for disciplinary action. The Zaltari fleet, initially poised for conflict, slowly backed down, understanding the risks of provoking a species as determined as humanity. Later, in a quieter room, Jack and Elena stood together, hands intertwined. "You did what you had to do," Elena said softly. Jack nodded, eyes thoughtful. "I did what humanity had to do." Behind the scenes, the United Terran Alliance drafted a new regulation, the Rourke Amendment. It declared unequivocally that no individual, regardless of species or rank, would be above the law in cases of violence or assault. The amendment sent ripples across the interstellar community, setting a precedent that promised to protect the vulnerable and hold the powerful accountable. Back on the Vigilant, as they prepared to depart Perihelion Prime, Jack allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Elena's hand in his was a reminder of what he fought for, not just victory or vengeance, but respect, justice, and peace. "We are survivors," he said quietly. "They thought we were soft. They forgot that humanity remembers." Elena smiled, her eyes shining with quiet pride. "We never forget." As the station faded behind them, the galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer just the new species to tolerate. It was the force others would reckon with.